4 centuries. From beaver pelts in frozen canoes to clearance racks in silent malls. This is the story of one of the oldest companies in the world, and how it came to the edge of collapse. Founded in 1670, the Hudson's Bay Company wasn't born in boardrooms. It was born in wilderness, driven by fur, risk, and ambition. Before Canada, before the United States, before the world took shape as we know it. It survived monarchs, wars, and revolutions. It mapped rivers, built forts, ruled lands, and yet it also sold housewares, coats, and cologne. HBC became part of the cultural fabric, from trap lines to suburban malls. In this episode of Chronicles of Commerce, we chart the rise, the reign, and the reckoning of a commercial empire. Because this isn't just a business story. It's a story about survival, and what happens when a company becomes older than the country it helped to build. To understand the fall, we need to understand the founding. To see the ending, we begin where it all began, in the snow, in the silence, in the fur trade. The land it claimed was staggering. Rupert's Land, 1/3 of Canada, handed to a company by royal decree. Not a government, not a nation, a company. This is a story of ambition, monopoly, survival, and decline. So bundle up. We're headed into the cold heart of commerce and 400 years of history. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Company, 1670 to 1700. Before the Hudson's Bay Company was born, 2 French traders braved frozen seas, chasing a rumor that untapped fur wealth lay beyond the Arctic Circle. Médard de Groseilliers and Pierre-Esprit Radisson weren't nobles. They were explorers, daring, ambitious, and increasingly unwelcome in France. So they took their grand plan to England. They found an audience with King Charles II, who granted them something no one else had ever received: control of an entire watershed. Millions of square kilometers. Their company would govern it all. On May 2, 1670, the Hudson's Bay Company received its charter, exclusive rights to trade, to govern, to raise armies, to build forts. A company with the powers of a state. This was Rupert's Land, named after Prince Rupert, the company's first governor. It covered 1/3 of modern-day Canada, larger than any European nation at the time. HBC planted its first outposts on the bay: Fort Albany, Moose Factory, York Factory. Isolated, frozen, and fiercely important. These became the anchors of empire. Trade wasn't taken, it was negotiated. Indigenous nations became the company's lifeblood, bringing furs, navigating the land, and reshaping the entire economy of the North. Beaver pelts flowed south. Ships returned to London stacked with cargo. Profits soared. By the 1680s, a new global economy was forming, and the Bay was at its center. This wasn't just trade, this was territory. The company flew its own flag. It made its own rules. In the North, HBC wasn't part of a country. It was the country. The Hudson's Bay Company began as an idea, but became a machine. A tool of empire, built on risk, fur, and frozen ambition. Rupert's Land wasn't just a map, it was a moving web of trade. Canoes, sleds, and caravans created seasonal highways across millions of frozen acres. The company acted as judge, jury, and sometimes jailer. It enforced rules on prices, licenses, even morality. In much of the North, it was the only law there was. Thousands of kilometers away, a board of governors in London set quotas and policy, managing a wilderness they'd never see. In the North, there was no pound or franc. The made beaver, one good quality pelt, became the unit of account for an entire economy. Winters were long, brutal, and isolated. Months would pass without new shipments or word from London. Forts became small frozen worlds unto themselves. Disease, accidents, and the cold claimed hundreds. For every successful voyage, there were losses, and lives buried far from home. This was not a temporary venture. Hudson's Bay was designed to last, and it did, building a legacy that would stretch centuries beyond its charter. These weren't just outposts, they were permanent settlements. HBC laid down roots, built storehouses, and carved commerce into the land. In London, fur was fashion, status, wealth. Beaver hats were everywhere, and everyone began in a trapline half a world away. The trading post was part marketplace, part lifeline, offering everything from wool blankets to gunpowder. These goods weren't luxuries, they were currency. HBC's monopoly was never uncontested. French traders, later the Northwest Company, and indigenous rivals all fought for access, alliances, and survival. For all its planning, the company often ignored the people who made it function. Indigenous women cooked, translated, stitched, and carried the burdens of daily life. No oil, no tech, just beaver. This humble animal powered an empire, one pelt at a time, and changed the history of a continent.